This is the final video in our three-part series in which we examine identity within the context of transitioning to college. In the first video, we got to know ourselves better by reflecting on our personal and social identities and creating identity wheels. In the second video, we discussed saliency, visibility, and the intersection of identities. And in this video, we'll bring together the various concepts about identity to think about how we can intentionally engage with identity during the transition to college. There are three main objectives to this video. We will contextualize identity within the transition to college. We'll learn how to intentionally engage with our own identities and with others' identities. And we'll also develop agency or control in how we share our identities with others. And in fact, we'll start with this third bullet point. When discussing identity development in college, I suggest that students seek out safe spaces and opportunities to explore their identities. What I mean by this is to seek out cultural centers, resource centers, affinity groups, and other programs that are designed with identity development in mind. These spaces generally feature trained facilitators who are skilled at helping students talk about identity, and you'll likely encounter other students with similar life experiences and values and who show up with the intention of exploring and developing their own identities as well. In addition, I suggest that students respect their own timelines and ask three important questions. When are you sharing? With whom are you sharing? And why are you sharing? I'll give a quick example. Oftentimes in the first week of college, students are missing home. They haven't yet connected with anyone on campus. And so they're more likely to reveal personal aspects of their life and their identities in an attempt to connect and bond with somebody else. So when? In the first week of college. With whom? Perhaps their roommate or someone else in their residence hall. And why? Because they miss home, they miss their friends, and they want to feel a strong sense of connection to someone else. A lot of students will tell me afterwards that when they do this, they feel a strong sense of regret afterwards. They've shared too soon with someone they don't yet trust, and they're not sharing for the right reasons. And so I encourage you to think about this, that you want to take your time in revealing parts of yourself to other people. I want to share this quotation from Zora Neale Hurston, "All my skin folk ain't kinfolk." She wrote this thinking about sharing spaces with people who had similar racial identities, and yet the commonalities stopped there. They did not share similar values, they did not share similar perspectives, they did not see the fight for racial equity and justice in the same way. Now, this quotation goes beyond racial identities. It's really about finding yourself in spaces with people who have a shared identity, but nothing more than that. And so we may be surprised when that happens, but we also have to be prepared for it. One reason may be that the shared identity is not what is salient to the individual. Or, even if it is salient, there may be other identities at play as well. For example, a student of color may look at another student of color and feel like they should immediately be able to connect because they're both students of color. However, if they grew up in different socioeconomic classes, their experiences at home, at school, and in their communities may have been different enough that they may not be able to relate, even though they have the common racial background. Thinking further about developing identity in college, we need to acquire the language to discuss our identities. We need to develop asset or strength-based frameworks for examining identity, and we need to recognize systems of oppression and how others may view us. What I mean by this is that we receive certain messages through news, media, school, etc., about various identities, and those messages can be negative. For example, messages about communities of color, urban public school systems, low-income and under-resourced neighborhoods, and we need to be able to control that narrative. One example is how people view first-generation college students, students whose parents or guardians or caretakers have not earned a college degree. People may look at first-generation college students and think that they come from families where education is not valued, where students are not as motivated, where students come to college lacking a lot of knowledge. On the other hand, we know that first-generation college students have the ability to take initiative, that they're independent learners. They're able to identify and learn from mentors. They often have a passion for social justice. They're resilient and they're optimistic. And so we need to be aware of how other people see us, and we also need to be able to lean on asset-based frameworks to control the narrative and help people see us in a more positive light. In addition, we should think about involvement holistically. When I think about involvement, I'm thinking about clubs, activities, community service, leadership opportunities. Think about both your visible and your invisible identities. Explore a range of activities beyond obvious choices. And think at the intersections. So one example of this is that students may come in and say, well, I am a student of color, therefore I must go to a cultural center or to a racially based or ethnically based affinity group. Other students may say, I have a strong passion for medicine and I want to be a doctor someday. There are many clubs that may combine those identities. For example, at Northeastern, we have a minority association of pre-health students, in which students of color who have an interest in a career in the medical field can come together and explore their identities at those intersections. Similarly, there is a Women in Finance Club, and so that is for female students who envision a career in business for themselves. In addition, identity development is not static. So be open to new experiences. Think of college as an opportunity to reinvent yourself, to try new things, and to develop new identities. And this really can happen at any time, though the break between high school and college, especially as you meet many new people, is a perfect opportunity to present yourself in a new way. So take a moment to pause and reflect. What aspects of your identity are you most excited to explore in college? How will you use your understanding of identity development during your transition to college? And finally, in conclusion, think about why is it important to be aware of our social identities? How might our actions be perceived differently if we are members of a dominant group versus if we are members of a marginalized group? And finally, when you are in a setting as a member of the dominant group, what specifically can you do to ensure that people from all social identities are welcomed, acknowledged, and valued?